Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 8 of the 26th Tour de France. Today's race, let's take a look at the profile. 180 kilometers, call it 115 miles in length. This is the third stage here at the 26th Tour de France for the sprinters. We know Olaf Koy won the first sprint on stage 5, and we saw Tim Miller win yesterday in a fantastic style and an explosive amount of form to win yesterday's stage 7. So stage 8 is the third sprinting stage here for the sprinters at the Tour de France. But unlike years past, we do not have a ton of depth in the team for the sprinters, so it gets going to be interesting at the end of today's stage, but we'll get into that later into the video. When we take in the kilometer zero, right away we start seeing some attacks. As these attacks are happening, we see EF Education following and bringing these attacks back, and then we see the radio come on from one of the teams back there that say EF Education's Asgreen, Casper Asgreen, has his shoe covers on and his TT helmet on. Okay, guys, we're talking about marginal gains here. I don't think I want to race with shoe covers and race with a TT helmet, or at least an aero helmet on. It's not a TT helmet. Come on, let's not get carried away here. It's not a helmet like we see over at Visma bike, but it is an aerodynamic helmet. I don't want to make myself any hotter for any reason at this point in time. And remember, if you made the early break and your name's Casper Asgreen, the Peloton's always going to play with you back there, so you're really only going to have to throw down after the last KOM or within the last 30 or 40 kilometers of today's stage. So wearing aero shoes is not a benefit for 180 kilometers, and an aero helmet certainly isn't a benefit with those two combinations together when it's been this hot out at the Tour de France in 2026. So before we know, we got 3 riders going up the road. We see Liam Slock there. We got Ortruba there. He was in the break yesterday. And Thibaut Gernelac from Total Energy. These 3 riders start getting a little bit of gap. And we look right away at the back of the Peloton. Soudal Quickstep, along with Alpecin Premier Tech, are chasing back there, keeping the gap at about 1.5 minutes. It will extend out to about 2 minutes. Now, if you watch today's stage, it's a bit of a sleeper through most of this section. There's going to be some magnificent chateaus or castles out there, and it's going to be a beautiful scenery of France. So you really, if you woke up a little bit early, you get to see a ton of scenery, but you don't get to see much action. So I'm going to forward you all the way up into about 60 kilometers ago when we come into the first of the KOM. At this moment, I take you up to the top of the KOM. It's Liam Slock up there from Lotto Intermarché that grabs himself maximum points. Now, this kid just got done winning a race here at the European Peloton, his first one over at Gippingen, if I remember correctly. He jumped away from some quality riders back there like Carapaz and such. And as he jumped away, he's coming into the finish. He looked back over his shoulder. By the time he looked back forward, the bike was crashing, and he was flying and skidding across the finish line for his first European victory. Now, what was also kind of strange about this crash, if you look over, you see his dossard there flying off to the right side there up in the air, and you can see his number on the right side as he's crashing on the left side. But he did win his first professional road race here in 2026 before the Tour de France, so you know this kid has some power on the pedal. I take you up into 60 kilometers ago. It's the intermediate sprint point competition. Here, Ortruba from Caja Rural, he grabs himself maximum points or maximum dollars, whichever one he's most interested in. But when we go back for the fourth place points here, we see there's a big battle happening back there, and it's Jasper Philipsen that grabs him some points with a few places back. It's Mads Pedersen in the green jersey, so he'll lose a few points to Jasper Philipsen and company because Max Canter was in front of him too. Go up front, we start the second of the category climbs. Now is the big showdown happening here with 40 kilometers to go. First, Ortruba from Caja Rural throws in his acceleration. We look back at the Total Energy rider, Thibaut Gernelac there. He's suffering, so Liam Slock from Lotto throws in his attack, bridges up to the rider in front of him, Ortruba, and Ortruba's staying on the front. He's trying to grab himself some maximum dollars or maximum points, but he looks like he's putting his neck out on the line. Go back down and look at the professional Peloton coming through here at the Tour de France. They start lighting it up with EF Education. This must have been why you want some hot feet and a hot head if you're Casper Asgreen, but it's his teammate on the front. I'll call this Valgren if I remember correctly. He's lighting it up with Casper Asgreen on his wheel. We go up and look at the 2 riders that now have dropped Ortruba that's going back to the Peloton, and Liam Slock from Lotto Intermarché is jumping hard on the pedals. He'll go over the top of the KOM, grabbing himself again for a second time maximum points. Go back down the climb. Wahlgren's jumped off the front. Casper Asgren's throwing down with his shoe covers and his aero helmet on, but Matthew van der Poel's covering this attack. Now, this is the way Matthew van der Poel should have been racing when Mads Pedersen was throwing in attacks throughout multiple stages here at the Tour de France, is follow the attack, sit on him, and kill him. He's doing that. Then, as they come closer to the top of the KOM, X, Johannes Abrahamsen throws in his acceleration. Matthew van der Poel starts to close the gap. At this moment, when you see Matthew van der Poel closing the gap and you look at the time that it takes for him to close the gap up to Jonas Abrahamsen, this tells you that he's certainly still 1% off of his top form, because Matthew van der Poel would have been all over this move if he was riding 100% on form with what we saw in 2025-like type form at the Classics. Now, as he does close the gap, that'll neutralize this group. They go over the top with 30, 40, 50 riders, whatever it is, but Pogge's in the group, so you know no one's going to do any work. The Peloton comes back together, and before you know it, Liam Slock's up there still holding the gap. Now, he's coming into 25 kilometers to go. He's holding about 1 minute and 25 seconds on everyone, and Liam Slock's certainly going to put on a show here at the Tour de France. What's happening is that does not have a ton of depth of teams back there that have been pulling on the front. NSN, if I back the film up to 60 and 80 kilometers ago, they would put the guy on the front. That's the New Zealand national champion, George Bennett, my old teammate. So he's helped out a little bit. But now when we're coming into 20 kilometers to go and he's holding 1 minute and 20, Liam Slock that is, you start seeing the Peloton's getting a little bit worried because they're not bringing back much time. And most importantly, when you look at the speeds, these guys are doing 55, 60 kilometers an hour, and so is Liam Slock up there. So they need to start getting serious at this moment. Okay, I take you into 15 kilometers ago. The gap's at 1 minute and 15 seconds to Liam Slock. Now I take you into 11 and a half. Dylan Van Barley from Pseudo Quickstep, he's got orders to get on the front because the gap needs to start dropping quickly because we're getting almost into 10 kilometers to go. So Dylan Van Barley's throwing down on the front. Then we see with just under 11 kilometers to go, it's getting nervous in the Peloton. So certainly this might start to help the sprinter teams, but it's not helping much because the GC guys know what? They know they don't have to race on sprint stages of the Tour de France. They got yesterday off and they're going to get today off too. And now at this moment, that's why the speeds are having problems, because there's no GC teams up there going side-by-side battle and allowing some of the sprinter team guys to get some rest. So it's all sprint teams at the front. Now take you into 9 kilometers to go as this bump happens. Liam Slock's still on the front. He's standing up out of the pedals. He's throwing everything into it. He's got the gap at about 1 minute, so he's still dropping time, but he's still got a solid time as he's coming up this bump, and he's throwing tons of power into it. Now, like I said, the speeds have been high, and when I back the film up, and even at this moment, you look at flags backing the film up, they're not blowing. The trees aren't blowing. Their hair's not blowing all over the place, so it's not some kind of wicked tailwind. Maybe there's a little bit of tailwind, maybe there's no wind, but there's certainly not a big tailwind. Otherwise, you'd see something happening between the flags, the trees, and the female's hair. You for sure would see something happening. So Liam Slock makes it up over this climb. We look back at 8.4 kilometers ago. X is hopping on the front, and Pascal Inkhorn up there from Pseudo Quickstep's putting on a show because he's been on the front of the Peloton throughout almost all of this stage. Take you into 7.5 kilometers ago, it's Nico Prudhomme up there from Decathlon. Now back it up, they'll show the camera where we see the radio communication from the director sportif asking Nico Prudhomme to get on the front because if Decathlon want a shot at winning here on today's stage 8 with their sprinter Olaf Koy, they need to start throwing in some depth. Now keep in mind, teams like Lidl-Trek would normally be at the Tour de France helping out throughout all of this stage, but Johnny Milan's not here. Mads Pedersen is. But Mads Pedersen doesn't care about bringing back one rider up the front because he can take the 70 points. And if he believes he's not the fastest sprinter, which Mads Pedersen has said multiple times in a pure sprint, he's not the fastest sprinter. So why would Lidl-Trek get on the front? So without Lidl-Trek getting on the front and with multiple GC teams not on the front, that's why these guys are having some problems. Along with the pure and simple 100% fact, Liam Slock is throwing down a show here on stage 8 of the Tour de France. Now going into 6.5 kilometers to go. As the riders up front are starting to suffer, we look over to the left side. It's Ewan Costu from FDJ that's throwing in an acceleration. If he can get up to the front, he might be able to go up there and give Nico Dins and Dylan Van Barley a little shock, because if I back you up to 60 kilometers to go, We'll see Ewan Costu was shocking Lenny Martinez. He's got a little static electricity energy, but Ewan Costu is still on the left side with the Astana team over there, so they're going to need a bump from someone. So I take you into 6 kilometers to go. Astana's hopping and on the front. With Astana hopping on the front in the gap at 35 seconds, it's looking a little bit more doable that Leon Sluck's going to get caught from Lotto, but he's still throwing everything into it. The next part at 5 kilometers to go, the gap's at about 30 seconds. Now we're into the sprint zone, so the safety zone for the GC guys, they're going to have it safe now throughout the finish of the stage, assuming there's no split in the professional peloton. Take you into 4 kilometers to go. It's single file in 26 seconds to Liam Sluck, but the peloton is strung out from the speed of Astana on the front. Take you into 4.4 kilometers to go. Liam Sluck's got his head down, throwing in the last bit of energy he's got, and still trying to hold off the Astana team. At 4.2 kilometers to go, it's Picnic trying to get up to the front, but they're not going to make it. Then we look over to the left side. It's two-door cycling, but only one rider gets on there. He blows too. Now at 3 kilometers to go, Liam Sluck's starting to fall apart like Robin Williams and Robots, where nuts and bolts were dropping all over the place. That's what we're seeing from the Lotto Intermarché riders. The gap's down to 13 seconds. At 2.6 kilometers to go, Aaron Gate is throwing down big time still for Astana. He's got Davide Ballerini on his wheel, Mike Tunis in there, Max Cantor. Look behind him, it's Pascal Ackermann. Voshik's up there, Stuyven's up there, Tim Miller's up there, Mads Pedersen, the teammate for Voshik, going deep right now. At 2.5 kilometers to go, Alpecin Premier Tech are getting organized and starting to come up the right side of the peloton. They got 4 guys with Jonas, with Edward Plankert, Matthew Van Der Poel's in the picture, and Jasper Philipsen. Now, Matthew Van Der Poel, if I take you back into yesterday's stage, he accelerated too hard going up over the cobbles at 500 meters to go. Then his speed started to drop a little bit too soon for Jasper Philipsen to be able to win yesterday's stage. But I don't believe that was the only problem. Jasper Philipsen's legs, I believe, were a little bit off on yesterday's stage, because at 225 meters to go, at 250 meters to go, when Matthew Van Der Poel pulled off hard to the left, that's normally close enough for a rider of the quality of Jasper Philipsen. But he wasn't able to deliver yesterday, so let's see if Alpecin Premier Tech can deliver today when they're coming up the right side with 4 riders. Take you guys now into 2.3 kilometers to go. It's a right bend. As they exit the right bend, Aaron Gates, Davide Ballerini got too much of a gap on their teammates back there, Mike Tunison, and their sprinter Cantor. So they got to back off the throttle. Liam up front, he starts looking back over his shoulder, and he's about ready to blow at 1.4. He does blow. Then when we look back at the Alpecin Premier Tech rider, that's Jonas Rickard up there that's blowing too. So as he's blowing, look over the right side. That's pseudo quick-step Jasper Stuyven, He's accelerating up past Edward Plankert. Now he hits the front, but the problem is, when he's getting on the front, if I back the film up just a hair, let's look and see what happened to Tim Miller. Because Jasper Stuyven started his acceleration moving to the right side to get to the front, because if I take you into his interview, he said what? He said the penultimate corner starts at 1.2 kilometers to go, and he's got to get Tim Miller into that section, and then Tim Miller can look after himself into the final downhill run and the final 500 meters into the straightaway of the sprint of today's stage 8. So Jasper Stuyven is sticking to plans, but Tim Miller is not, because he moved back over on the Max Cantor wheel from Astana. So Stuyven's coming up to the front. He'll take over the front of the peloton as Liam's dropping off from the pace there from the big time effort. Tip of the hat to Liam as the Lotto Destiny rider drops back. But now Stuyven is throwing down on the front. He'll look over his shoulder once, and he should realize at this point in time that Tim Miller is too far back. Jasper Stuyven's going into 1.2 kilometers to go. As he starts this right bend, we look back on his wheel. That's Edward Plankert there from Alpecin Premier Tech. Kwiatkowski's there, Mike Tunison, and Cantor. Look further back, Matthew Van Der Poel side by side too with those guys. We go a little bit further back. There's Soren Vornskjold, Tim Miller, and Dorian Godon, along with Jasper Philipsen. Look even further back, Mads Pedersen is in trouble coming around this bend at 1.2 kilometers to go. But as they're coming around, you look up at the very front of the peloton, that's Edward Plankert, Alpecin Premier Tech, that's looking back over his shoulder, and he knows at this moment Jasper Philipsen's in trouble. That's their number one objective, is to win today's stage 8. So Edward Plankert's pulling himself off the front. Next rider to hit the front of the peloton, as you can tell from the overhead picture, Michael Kwiatkowski from Team Ineos. He's hitting the front, but he knows he's got some problems. But before we get up to that, when he realizes it, we got to see that Jasper Stuyvesant was dropping off, so he must have looked back over his shoulder before Edward Planker, and you see both those guys on the left side. Now you look up at the front of the peloton, and it's Michael Kwiatkowski that's looking back over his shoulder because, again, Dorian Godon was back there at that corner at 1.2 along with Jasper Philipsen. So Michael Kwiatkowski's got to back off the throttle. We look at the very back of the peloton, at least midway further back behind all the sprinter groups. The first team we see is Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Then it's the race leader's yellow jersey, followed by Jonas Vingegaard in the red helmet with the polka dot jersey. So these guys are still latched on. They'll get same time. There's no doubt about it. But up front, Mike Teunissen's hitting the front. But boom, shuts the gas off. Now, why is he shutting the gas off? Well, he's got 750 meters, 730 meters to go, so he's looking back over his shoulder. He's going to look back once. He's going to look back twice. He's going to look back 3 times. And every time he's looking back, what's happening as he's slowing the speed down when they're doing 65 kilometers an hour down this descent through the forest? Well, it's bunching up through the back. So everyone coming through that final corner at 1.2 kilometers to go, all the sprinters, that is, that were lost at the back, now they're swarming around the right side as Dorian Godon has pulled up Jasper Philipsen with him from Alpecin Premier Tech. Mathieu van der Poel still at the front. You look at Tim Miller, all of a sudden he comes into the picture. Beniam Girmay's in a good place at this moment too, sitting second row. Third row's Tim Miller back there, but he's a little boxed in. He was a little boxed in yesterday, but he had some luck happening on his side. Now Max Cantor knows his teammate Mike Teunissen needs to throw an acceleration. I think this was a mistake when I saw it happening from Mike Teunissen. I think he should have been on the gas, but at 730 meters to go with a turn at 500 meters to go, and now we're at just about 600, maybe just a hair under. You look at the neon signs over there, you know that Mike Teunissen has to get back on the throttle. So he gets back on the throttle on the left side. He starts the acceleration. Max Cantor, his sprinter's on his wheel. But there's chaos in the peloton because it went super wide from the speed dropping of Mike Teunissen. Mike Teunissen starts to accelerate, but look in the back as it's starting to come together. Beniam Girmay, Soren Varnskol, and Dorian Godon. First, it's going to be Beniam Girmay bumping with Dorian Godon. Then he's going to go over with Soren Varnskol as they're coming through the final bend here on stage 8. Up front, Max Cantor's throwing down, but let's pay a little more attention still at the back of the peloton of the sprinter favorites. They're exiting, it's going wide, but Soren Varnskol with the bump there, Beniam Girmay, they both got to exit real wide and come back. Now I back the film up, take you back into the same corner. It's Pavel Bittner all the way on the right side that was doing his acceleration, trying to make up into as much time as he could come in his final bend, but he's got Milan Frenton there from Cofidis. So Milan Frenton had to stop a little bit and slow down as they exit out of the corner, and Mike Teunissen's throwing down at the front with Cantor on his wheel, with Mathieu van der Poel, with Jasper Philipsen, with Olaf Koy, with Russo in this group, and with Milan Frenton opening up the gap back there. That means that Beniam Girmay has some distance to make up along with Tim Miller. So Tim Miller starting to punch it at the same time Mathieu van der Poel starting to punch it at the front. He starts the acceleration, Mathieu van der Poel that is, with Jasper Philipsen on his wheel. As they start to accelerate side by side there with the Astana rider from Max Cantor, Cantor's looking over like 400 meters to go and he's like, uh-oh, I'm going to have to switch wheel because Mike Teunissen's not going fast enough. But before that starts to happen, we look just behind those two riders in the front, or 3 or 4 if you want to call it that, and Olaf Koy's coming around the right side, and Max Cantor is now starting to slot over. So as he's slotting over, they're pinching off Russo. Clement Russo there from FDJ is getting pinched off. Now back the film up just a hair. We got to look at the second group because Tim Miller and Beniam Girmay started their acceleration around Milan Frenton, who got held up in that corner. His speed starting to drop, but Tim Miller's got a ton of speed, so he's starting his acceleration. Go up to Russo that got pinched off from Olaf Koy and company as Russo's dropping back because he lost speed, getting pinched off. Now Tim Miller's got some bait just in front of him. I mean, this is some serious bait in front of him because it means what? It means a beautiful draft for Tim Miller. So Tim Miller's coming up with a ton of speed. Mathieu van der Poel's throwing in effort at the front. He's past the Astana riders of Mike Teunissen, of course. Cantor, who's bumping with Olaf Koy for Jasper Philipsen's wheel. Now Mathieu van der Poel's throwing in his acceleration. He's got clean air in front of him. Jasper Philipsen's there. Olaf Koy starts his acceleration first. As he throws in his jump, remember, Tim Miller's flying from the back still, flying up the left side, but not at the front just yet. Olaf Koy starts his acceleration as we see Tim Miller in the picture. Jasper Philipsen still there and hasn't just about ready to start his sprint. It's going to start right about now. Once he starts his sprint, they're going 4 wide. Tim Miller, Matthew Van Der Poel, Jasper Philipsen, Olaf Koy, they're going full gas. Look behind Tim Miller. That's Beniam Girmay. Now go up a little bit further. Jasper Philipsen and Olaf Koy are going to come real close here. I don't think there's going to be any reason to slow it down just yet for Jasper Philipsen, but he's threading the needle because Matthew Van Der Poel's dropping back on his left side. So Jasper Philipsen's got some more drama like he had yesterday, stage 7 to deal with. But is it slowing him down? It doesn't look like it is, but his legs aren't quite there. So as Jasper Philipsen's dropping a little bit, Tim Miller has the front at 50 meters to go. Beniam Girmay's locked onto his wheel. Olaf Koy's just over to the side. Jasper Philipsen's starting to blow. Tim Miller's going to take it all the way across the line to win stage 8 here at the Tour de France to go back-to-back stage victories. When he crosses the line, he's got one finger in the air. Then he's got this mean old looking grin on his face, a serious grin. Then 2 arms go wide as he crosses the line victorious here on stage 8. Look behind him. Beniam Girmay, Olaf Koy will round out the podium positions here on stage 8. Now back the film up just a hair to where the victory salute was just before it had started for Tim Miller. Look at the very back, way back there in like 60th position. Jasper Stuyven is back there looking up, stretching his neck over, trying to see if his man's going to win today's race. Now, it took some work from Tim Miller to be able to win today's stage. There's no doubt about that. But Jasper Stuyven did the only thing he could do at 1.2 kilometers ago, coming down that descent, hit the abort button. He was supposed to come into 1.2 with Tim Miller on his wheel. That didn't happen, so he hit the abort button, did the next best thing. So did Alpecin Premier Tech's Edward Plankard, and so did Kwiatkowski. That's what allowed their sprinters to get back into this game, and the mistake from Mike Teunissen. What should have Mike Teunissen have done? Once he had started, once he was left on the front, he should have kept drilling it, left it strung out, gone into the 500-meter right bend, and then his teammate Max Cantor should have backed off the throttle and let Mike Teunissen go up the road. Then the sprinters behind Max Cantor would have had to close the gap, and he could have followed them the whole time. Instead, Mike Teunissen shutting the gap down, let all the sprinters back in. Tim Miller, you won today, stage 8, back-to-back, with some marvelous tactics being played and some, no doubt about that, big balls fighting for that final corner at 500 meters go and big licks. Now in the interview afterwards, Tim Miller said once he sees the line, he's going for it all the time. There's no doubt about that. But he said at 50 meters ago, the legs just fell off and he had to cruise through. You still won today's race. Congratulations, Tim Miller. Fantastic race. Yellow jersey. Tadej Pogacar keeps the jersey at the end of today's stage 8, of course, because in his interview, he says all the GC guys agreed to stay at the back of the peloton today. Will that happen if there's crashes coming up in some of these other stages? We'll have to find out real soon if the GC guys will have a truce and play these same kind of tactics when there's something in the way, road furniture or crashes that could cause a split in the peloton. Will they all wait for each other then? Well, like and subscribe. We'll find out later. I'll bring it to you. See you guys for stage 9 at Tour de France real soon.